Welcome to Playful Beginnings, a podcast about the magic of play therapy for therapists, students, and anyone interested. In our podcast, we'll explore the deeper understanding of play therapy and the skills we use when working with children.
We hope to help you understand the why behind what we do and how it helps kids heal and grow. I'm Dr. Christy Opiola, a working play therapist and university professor in North Carolina.
I'm Dr. Maggie Parker, a play therapist and professor in DC. Hi, Christy.
Hey, Maggie. We're excited. We're all awkward this morning. We have a guest speaker, y'all.
We're so excited. We have with us Dr. Mary Morrison Bennett, who is a play therapist, an author, and at one point a faculty member, and in practice at Austin Stone Counseling Center in Austin, Texas, and also the author of the book, The Guide to Play Therapy Documentation and Parent Consultation with Dr. Linda Homeyer. And it's an excellent book for all of our clinicians out there. It is so helpful. And I refer so many of my supervisees and students and friends to this book. So, and Mary, we're also friends, which makes it really fun to have you here.
I know, that's what makes it fun to be here.
Yeah. So welcome back, Mary.
We're so glad you're here.
Yeah.
And that we get to continue this conversation.
I wonder if you could kind of go into CPRT with toddlers and how it might differ from what CPRT with older kids is. I don't know the proper verbiage, and maybe some of the similarities and differences or things that you focus on.
Yeah. So the toddler model, I love. It's really fun. And I think it's a great, anytime we're doing CPRT with a family, we want to kind of investigate, is CPRT the proper mode of treatment here, or is child-centered play therapy? And so depending on what's going on with the family, but I would, lots and lots of families who bring their toddler to play therapy would benefit from CPRT. And that for many of those cases, it might be the only mode of treatment that the child needs, really. If we're talking about general behavior issues, if we're talking about a traumatic experience that the child experienced, I would really look carefully at that parent. And are they in a place where they are strong enough where they can do this with their child? Often when a child has experienced a trauma or a really difficult situation, the parent is also traumatized. So in some cases, the parent may not be strong enough yet, and may not be ready. So that kid may need a little child-centered first. And then as the parent heals, they're ready for, I think you also have to look at, how many siblings total? Is this a parent I've got a client right now that my initial thought was, I really think y'all need CPRT, but they had a newborn. Those parents weren't capable of also doing CPRT. So really evaluating, parent, are you able to do this right now, and giving that time. So I think that's a really important kind of thing to kind of keep in mind, because we want to set parents up for success, right? And so really being in a good relationship with that parent, really evaluating, is this something they're ready to take on, that they want to take on? So I think that's important. So general kind of ways that the toddler model is different is the structure of special playtime. So the younger the child, the shorter the playtime is going to be. So if we're talking about an 18-month-old, we're talking about 3 times a week for 10 minutes. And so that might look special bath time.
Yeah.
And one thing I loved about special bath time is the child was contained in the bathtub. And I think the other thing that's really important but that's also very different, are the kind of toys and the number of toys. So our special bath time had 2 cups. Mm-hmm. And being really intentional, do your soaping, get that done, because bath time is important, and you need to, all that food that's stuck in their rolls and all that kind of fun stuff, take care of all that. And then, okay, it's time for special bath time. And sit right there and reflect. Oh, and you're pouring that water, and we name a little more in the toddler model, and that's okay.
Can I pause you for a second? What's the rationale in that for our listeners so that they can hear the differences between those two things?
Mainly, especially the younger the child, the 18-month-old doesn't have the language.
Yeah.
Right. And so they're not going to call it something else, because they're may only have a few, there's not that many words an 18-month-old has to begin with. I mean, some of them, others of them have tons of, it just depends on where your kid is developing, but it's okay to name stuff. And there's such few, again, the few items. So, there's only so much this and that you can do. But so there, we allow that. We feel that's okay.
I
Um,
also I also think there's the benefit of so much of toddlerhood is quizzing kids to get their
mhm.
to know their knowledge.
A
So
great point.
taking the quizzing out to name things feels more supportive of the child
I
than,
agree.
what color is this and what is this and what's the name of this? And because that's a lot of the interactions toddlers get as they're starting to be able to verbalize more and start to share their knowledge base, but it comes with a ton of pressure. So it sounds when you're naming things, you're just taking the pressure off of the child to really be in a more relaxed state, to be prized in that moment with the parent.
And really, again, that being with is a critical
Hmm.
component, right, of CPRT. And so it enables you to kind of join, because there isn't the verbal fill-in that an older child would give you.
Hmm.
It allows you to join in the child's play a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's 18 months is 3 times a week for 10 minutes. And I mean, it can be in special bath time. It can be in the Tupperware cabinet. I had a really great special play time when my daughter was little, and she just, because what does play look like at 18 months? They're kind of walking over and handing you stuff. And they're walking over and handing you stuff. And that is play. And so I would say we add in a little bit more of what play looks, especially at that young 18-month-old age. It's a lot of stacking, it's a lot of handing, it's a lot of, putting off and on kind of stuff, and understanding that that is play. So that's an important component. In fact, one time I had a former student of mine send me the most precious video of her child at about 18 months. And they had a bunch of magnets on their refrigerator, and she was sitting in the floor of the kitchen, and he was just taking magnets off and handed them to her and then putting them back on. And, for 10 minutes, you can do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's one of the things I really struggled with as a young parent, feeling, oh, I know I need to go play with you. Let me finish getting all of these dishes in the dishwasher, completing a task, and then I'll come play. Because in my head, that meant I was on the floor for an hour. Now, turns out their attention spans are not that long. And so the 10-minute special playtime is great.
Yeah.
So then when you move to 2 years, we're looking at twice a week for 15 minutes. And again, that could still be bath time, that kind of stuff. I'll talk in a minute about when you build a play kit, kind of the things that could be in it. And then at 3 years, we're doing once a week, 20 minutes. So we're kind of, increasing the amount of time, decreasing the frequency kind of stuff. And I said the location can be kind of fluid. Things that we in a special playtime kit for kids this young, again, fewer the better, right? Our kids get overwhelmed. I mean, I think that's probably a definite unique American problem, is that children have too many toys and they can't find anything. They are overwhelmed, and honestly, when they have fewer things, they play more.
Yeah.
So we're talking about some balls. We're talking about stackable containers, a couple of spoons, some blocks, a bucket. So thinking, and even your bucket could be, I mean, I know my bucket was a oatmeal container, right? So stuff that you can put in and take out, right? We're filling the container and we're dumping it out, that kind of stuff. A small blanket. You will want to have a few real life things. So a tiny baby, cars, that kind of stuff, musical instruments that, just are a shaker. That's a musical instrument. If you wanted to go Play-Doh, you could do that, but I would Play-Doh at the table while they're sitting in their, seat at the table, and have that, be a little structured, because Play-Doh and carpet is a bad scene, and it's a lot of responsibility for a toddler to have to maintain that.
Well, and I think that's really helpful because what it does is I think we talk about this a lot in CCPT in general, but eliminating that stress point for the parent. And that can be really helpful. Another thing that I found just real quick on the Play-Doh is if you go to the dollar store, you can get these really thin plastic
Sheets.
cutting boards.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I
Mhm.
use those and you can kind of, so if they're painting or, tonight when we do pumpkins, those come out and they were $1.25 for Molly's fourth birthday. And, 5 years later, I'm still using
I'm
them.
still using them. Oh yeah, my kids have these art mats. I got it, Hobby Lobby or something. And I think I got them when I mean, 10 or 12 years ago. I
Yeah.
mean, and we still use them at this point to paint fingernails and,
Yeah.
but I mean, some kind of plastic,
That,
to
like,
kind of contain
eliminate that
your space
stress.
so that you don't have to be, no, it has to stay on here. No, it has to stay on, kind of stuff
Yeah.
is really valuable. Colored pencils and paper. I have colored pencils for toddlers because they don't eat them as much and they don't quite break. I mean, I don't know. That was
Do you
just
use a thicker one so that they're
you
thicker?
can, yeah. And I actually probably wouldn't even worry about colored pencils and paper for a kid who's 18 months. I would
Yeah.
wait until 2.5 to worry about that if you wanted that in your play kit. One thing we also have done is finger paint, but in the bathtub. Again, eliminating that stress. Just put them in a diaper in the bathtub. And they even make special bathtub paint and that kind of
Mhm.
stuff.
But it does not come out of grout.
No, well, you're right about that. So you would want them to stay in the tub. And I will say this on the bathtub paint or bathtub crayons. I had a kid with really sensitive skin, and that did not go well for us. So,
Yeah.
but knowing that, but water play, so little cups, a funnel, that kind of stuff. One time I had a great special playtime with my kid standing on a stool at the bathroom sink, and making sure when you're doing water play with your kid, give them a cup or container that is as much water as you're willing to clean up because they are going to pour it and they are going to spill it.
Yeah.
And so give them a tiny something. That's okay. That's as much, they
Yeah.
don't need a gallon size container at the bathroom sink to do water play with, or the kitchen sink or whatever. Just in regular CCPT, where you have as much glue as you're willing to come out or as much paint, the same rule applies. And it's interesting because I have this great video of my daughter when she's about 16 months, or maybe she's a little older, 16 months in the bathtub. And then I have her more at 18 or 19 months standing at the bathroom sink that I show with CCPT. And they're always, well, what if she spills it? And I'm quick to point out it's only this much water. And if you never spill, you don't learn how to
Mhm.
clean up. So have a towel. And because lots of toddlers and preschoolers actually like to clean up.
Mhm.
This is the time in life where they learn that. And so if part of what they're learning is they get a towel and they, put it now, are they going to do a beautiful job? No. But they're doing this
They're
is part of
trying.
they're trying,
Yeah.
This
and
reminds
learning
me,
how to do that.
Rhodes used to mop our back deck with his little mop and the dog bowl.
Oh yeah.
Just seeing him in his little diaper. Here we go.
You're totally. I mean, Montessori preschool is a lot of sweeping and mopping and polishing. It's all because they're learning large motor skills,
Yeah.
fine motor skills, moving your body in different. I mean, I'm a lot
I
big
was
love
going
it.
to say my mom's a Montessori teacher. And so not when I was little, though. She became a Montessori teacher when we were all grown. But, it's going to sound funny, but votive holders
Huh?
are a great size for your toddler
Yeah.
or a little shot glass, right?
Mhm.
And a pitcher that's about the same size. Those are the sizes you want in this toddler kit. They come in plastic, they come in glass. Just know those are really thick glass too. So when they drop, they bounce really well.
Well, and part of
You can learn.
Montessori. Also,
You
they
learn.
have, I mean, I remember my kids, part of their school supplies was a breakable mug
Yep.
because if you haven't ever dropped something, you don't know that it breaks, and
And how do
our
you know
teacher
to be
would say,
careful?
right. You don't know to be careful. And our teacher would say, when it breaks, give it space,
Mhm.
which is a great line for parents of toddlers to know and use because things break all the time. And everyone panics, right? Get back. What are you doing? But she would just go, when it breaks, give it space, was her immediate line every time something would fall in the classroom, which I thought was great. So the parent chooses the toys and keeps the activity the same 3 weeks in a row. So if you're going to commit to special bath time, do that 3 weeks in a row. And then if you want to change it to, sitting in the floor with your box of toys, great. Keep it about 3 weeks in a row.
And is that true, Mary, for the 18-month-old where you're doing it 3 times a week for 10 minutes? So you would do that for 3 weeks?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. Just so they learn what special time is, right? We don't want to be adding toys to our older kids' play set all the time.
Hmm.
We don't be changing it up all the time because it won't feel unique and special.
Gotcha.
That makes sense. They're
Yeah.
learning that's what this is. So that's kind of the structuring piece and the toy kind of piece. The next kind of different is one of the things that we tell parents in traditional CPRT is to be dumb, right? To act you don't know anything. And that is not really appropriate in the toddler model because the toddlers often don't know what something is. Now, if you think that they are, I don't know, trying to connect, you know your kid, you know what your kid knows. And, so there may be a time that you might say, well, you can decide what that is. But you don't have to, that's why the labeling, we go ahead and label stuff.
Yeah.
We can label, but we want to avoid teaching, right? So we're still wanting to avoid teaching. Toddlers don't usually expand their imagination to be anything you want it to be, kind of thing. So that may not be a line that we use very often with toddlers because they're still very concrete, right? A car is a car and it drives. It's not also going to be an airplane, right?
Well, and I think it like also makes sense too, and if I'm wrong, but in development, I can't, is it assimilation where it's if it has hair and four legs, then it's a dog. And then all of these things are then dogs. And so you don't have to necessarily correct them when they're, oh, hey.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because this is where you have to remind yourself, it doesn't matter. This is not my child's only opportunity to learn that this is a lion and not a dog. They will encounter a lion another time in their life, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's important here is my relationship and that I am enjoying something with them. And I think one thing that is so easy to forget as a parent, as a toddler, is you're so busy. There's still so many tasks to do. There's still diapers to be changed, bottoms to be wiped in general, cups to be picked up. And you're still doing so many tasks that it is easy to forget to enter your child's world and enjoy the things that they're enjoying.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking it's a lot of mode, right? In toddlerhood, you're
100%.
just trying to survive and keep them alive.
Yes.
Just it
Not
wasn't
kill
infants,
themselves.
not themselves.
They're so dangerous.
Yeah.
Because
as infants, we want it just to keep them alive. And now that they're toddlers, we're trying to not let them kill something as well as keep them alive.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I for sure I needed special playtime as a parent to remind, and I mean, again, I have a PhD in play therapy. I needed special playtime to remind me to be curious about how the wheel worked on the car or to be excited about this baby that I could take care of. Kind of thing. And I think another thing that's really important for parents of toddlers when we're talking about the number of toys, this was a really interesting thing that happened at my house. So you'll learn some selfishness about me. But anyway, when my daughter was born, I said to the grandmothers, I am buying the first baby doll. You may not buy a baby doll. And everyone was respectful of that. But I wanted my daughter to have one favorite doll. And so I didn't buy her a doll until she was probably 18 months old, almost two, and she had one. And then at some point around 2.5, my sister-in-law was giving us some hand-me-downs because her kid had outgrown, things. And in the box were these little bitty babies that are awesome. I think they're the $2 babies at Target. They're wonderful babies. But there were 3 of them in the box. And I didn't really think anything of it. And one day I walk in to Eleanor's room and she is sitting in her little chair and she has 4 babies and she's rocking and shushing and she is working so hard. And she says, Mommy, I have too much babies. They're all crying. And she was distraught and overwhelmed with all these babies that needed to be taken care of. And I think that that's something that, oh my gosh, I never would have thought about. But these babies are real, these cars. And for my son, it looked at all the cars that needed washing, driving, and being really aware that these toys are real for them. And that she is really taking care of these babies, and that it is too much for any human to have to care for 5 infants at one time.
That's really sweet.
It was so sweet. It was so sweet. And I so quickly found those babies and put them in the closet. She cannot handle, but she needs to only think about it as a responsibility. She really can only be responsible for the one baby. And so sure enough, she never had another. That was really her only one baby doll growing up. When she got older, she got a little more doll kind of dolls, but But I think being really aware of entering into that with them, I had forgotten how important it is to care for the baby and how excited you are to love the baby or to whatever it is, and
It,
really join in their curiosity and excitement. And it makes life fun.
it also makes me think about some parents that I've worked with where bedtime is a hard time and all the stuffies, where the stuffies, is it that our kids may have two things to be responsible for more
Mhm.
than it is this idea that they're delaying bedtime or these other things? Maybe it is this,
Yeah.
just this natural empathy that kids have and wanting to make sure all their things are cared for and our, need for them to have everything their hearts desire actually may be counterproductive for us.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
would argue that same thing with clothes and keeping their drawers neat and tidy. It's like you have too many clothes in here. You can't possibly 10 of shorts. You can manage five. Okay. Do you really need 10? Probably not. Maybe you need eight. I don't know how you do laundry, but
I was going to
but
say seven, one for every day of the week, so that you
right,
have
exactly. So
clothes
you
to
do laundry
wash
once
every
a week.
week.
I
Yeah.
mean, at this point, it's they wear the same clothes every day.
That's
So
true.
why? I'm like, just please just pry off the tie-dye shirt. We'll wash it.
Mhm. Yeah, we can wash it. Yeah. Yeah. So some of those kinds of things of I needed help remembering to experience joy and curiosity. Look at that ladybug. Oh, wow. And what a gift it is to have a toddler who can you of the beauty of a ladybug,
Yeah.
you know, and the quality of time of just sitting in a lap. I will tell you, and this you all will laugh so hard, but when my daughter got to be more than 2.5 and we were doing special playtime out of a box, 2.5 to 3, probably, oh no, this would have been when she was 3 and up. Those first couple, so a lot of so I had two phones, right? Because in your standard C kit, you have two phones. And the play phones I had were dead old iPhones. And her playtimes where she would fill the bottle with water, she would sit in my lap, she would drink the bottle, and she would say, "Let's watch our phones." I remember the whole time just always being, if someone saw these, they would think that I had my kid on phone all the time. And what's funny is she never got to be on the phone, but she would see other kids places doing that. And so she knew that kids watched phones. And really, what she wanted, she's a very high comfort kid, and she just probably mostly wanted lap time, right? Just sitting. And I am a doer. I'm not that great at being with at home. And so I have to really focus on this is really important to her. This is really valuable for her. So knowing your kid, that kind of thing too. Okay, back to session adaptations is valuable. Limit setting. The younger the child, the shorter the limit. And the younger the child, and this, let me explain how I say this, but parenting from the couch, meaning just parenting with words, isn't very effective with children this young. You have to physically intervene. And that means physically going over there, helping them off the couch when they're jumping on it, saying, "Do you choose to hand me the ball here in my hand? Or do you choose to put it on the counter?" Those kinds of being close and close proximity to them is really important. Keeping the feeling very simple. You are mad. You are sad. You are happy. Just as when you're doing the ACT limit setting, really short, simple feeling words. We're not getting into really worrying about expanding their feeling. This is expanding their feeling vocabulary at this point, right? And keeping in mind that at this age they are practicing giving up this independence, right? And practicing giving in. And I will tell you, my kid who's now 10 never once, when I would give her a choice of you can put it here in my hand or you can put it on the counter, never once did put it in my hand. Never one time.
I don't know a kid in play therapy that puts it in my hand either. They'll always choose somewhere else to put it,
I've had at least one in my
but
hand,
not very many. If
but
we,
you're not many.
they still
Mhm.
want a sense of control,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
and
And
I
that needs to be
think,
okay.
Yeah.
I just
yeah,
knew she was going to put it on the count, making sure that choices, you're okay with the choices because they're,
yeah.
Caregiving.
you
Yeah.
know, make one.
Well, and I think there is this thing about, you can hand it to me or you could put it here. How often do adults take things from kids?
Right.
I
Why
mean,
would you put it in my hand? That doesn't sound like a great option. If I'm
Hmm.
going to be honest from a kid's perspective.
Yeah. Well, and parent, this is a great opportunity for your child to practice this skill of giving something up versus me coming in and taking. How are they ever learning
Right.
to give up.
Yeah.
And so, it's one of those things that's a great opportunity during special playtime when those opportunities bubble up, as they just do, giving the child that practice and thinking in terms of practicing.
And I think it's really important. And again, I don't know why Dr. Becky is coming to mind so much. But she thought how we don't actually put boundaries on kids. We're from the couch, or we say, turn off the TV, and then we leave the room and we get frustrated when they haven't turned off the TV. And at some point, it's, if you not to turn off the TV, you choose for me to turn it off. And having those so that you can stand up with them and being, hey, because developmentally, that's gonna be very, very hard for them to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's okay. You're not taking it from them. You're not yelling at them for not doing it. You're calmly repeating, that's not for doing. You really, you're really happy jumping on the couch, for jumping, and helping them in that process without judgment.
Because also, why isn't the couch for jumping? I mean, it's
Soft and
squishy,
bouncy
it's
and
soft and bouncy. I mean, I think that's the other thing is they don't know what the rules are, right? I remember one of our big rules, because my oldest was a boy and loved cars, right? Is, ooh, the car is not for the wall. The car is for the ground. I think also for parents of toddlers to understand that you will have to set limits hundreds of times before your child modifies their behavior. Just know that they are so in the moment. And for therapists to really communicate that to parent is that, children are so spontaneous and so in the moment. They are not thinking about, oh, the last time I drew the car on the, or I ran the car on the wall, Dad didn't really like that. I'm going to need, that's a lot of advanced planning skills.
yeah.
And so helping parents kind of understand those kinds of things. So again, with limits, we want you're only going to reflect the feeling. So you're really mad versus a need, wish, or want, right? You may need to physically intervene and help them, get down, help them, kind of thing. And then that's also where you can put, a choice in, do you choose to get down yourself or do you choose me to help you, kind of thing. You might do that. And you want to make sure you are reflecting that feeling because it's really important for vocabulary development is a really valuable thing. So those are the main things we adjust with the toddler model is, how often and the duration you're doing your special playtime, what you're doing special playtime with, what kind of materials do you have, and then the adjustment of limit setting and that just try and do it shorter. Kind of one of the goals, almost not a goal, but part of what happens with limit setting with older kids is you are really verbal. So it kind of does jump them from the right side of their brain to the left side of the brain and works in our favor, right? But with a toddler and preschooler, they're not there yet.
That brain
Yeah,
is still really developing.
yeah.
Yeah. I was also going to say, I think another thing that when I think of the toddler model is really close proximity,
Yes.
right? Where that it is beneficial in relationship building. You're in close space. They don't need, although they're big and expansive, right? And they take up a lot of space. You do still want to be and kind of gear your playtimes to be in smaller spaces and so that you can be in close proximity, so that you can have that moment where you say you could put it here or you could put it there, right? But it's in your close face to face, down on their level, all of those good things to really be beneficial. Just like bath time, it's contained,
Contained. That's
and you can
it's
be
what
close by.
yeah, it's what I really loved about special bath time or time at the bathroom sink. Because at
Mhm.
least the way our bathroom is set up, there's a tub, toilet, sink. And so I would just close the lid and sit on the toilet and be right there at the bathtub or right there at the sink. So I think also helping parents look at their spaces, where can they be in close proximity because toddlers will move around, and so it's a balance of you don't want to chase them down, but how do you be in close proximity so that they can
Yeah.
stay contained kind of thing.
Yeah.
And and I should know this, but when you do CPRT with toddlers, are you working with parents in a group setting, CPRT, or are you working with them individually, or can it be either?
I do both. It kind of depends on, needs, etc. But what I wouldn't recommend is I think it's very difficult to mix and have one parent of a toddler and one
Yeah.
parent of a teenager and parent of a 7-year-old. I think that's just too hard for the therapist to manage all of that because those parents' needs are really different. And I think you would miss out on some of the just parent connection. So I would say a toddler focused group or individual toddler work. So I think it just kind of depends on what is available to you and what your clients are needing.
I
Yeah.
have done a preschool toddler group. So although we
Oh
have
yeah.
slightly different, we do use the 3 to 5 or the 3 to 9 year old model, right? And then the toddler model. But the preschool parents really understand toddlerhood. And it's nice for toddler parents to see that, oh, this is survivable.
There's light at the end of the
But
tunnel. Yeah, but I wouldn't
there's
do,
another side. I wouldn't go older than 5. I do
yeah, that's
keep
what I was
them
gonna
young,
say.
close age and proximity.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think the other thing that's really important for us to know about when you're working, whether it's in just child work or CPRT work, is what play of this age range looks like. Because I will tell you, parents know what's typical and normal. They're like, he just hands me stuff all the time. Yes, that's playing. He is inviting you, he's involving you, or I mean, I had one time a parent was like, he just asks me what everything is, but I know he knows what it is. Why is he asking me? This is him trying to involve you.
Yeah.
And so making sure that you, the therapist, are familiar with that and maybe you just know where to look it up. And so you have a printed copy in front of you. I mean, you don't need to have to know it off, top of your head all the time. But I think that's a really important thing so that you can reassure people like, well, they are playing. This is what play looks, for kids this age.
I have a question. When thinking about CCPT, so child-centered, and you are seeing toddlers in your playroom, are there any adaptations or things that play therapists need to be thoughtful of when working with toddlers in traditional play therapy?
Yeah. So I would say the first and most important thing is making sure you know what toddler play looks like. Knowing your development, right? Because how you might interpret some play from a 2.5-year-old might be real different than how you interpret it as a 5-year-old based on context, all of those kinds of things how we're normally making sense of being curious about their play. So making sure you know it's typical, right? And then I would say the first most important thing is probably talking with the parent about how the kid will separate before you see them. What separation might look. Is this a kid who typically separates well? And being really patient with separation because what the parent thinks is going to happen and actually happening may not go down because it's a new environment, right? And this child should be nervous. They should be concerned coming with you,
Yeah.
right? And reminding parents, well, they should be. I'm new. This is something different. It's very unusual for a toddler to go off with an adult on their own, separate from their parent, right? And so encouraging parents, that's actually really appropriate. And so being really patient about that separation, you may have an or two where you bring a parent in and coaching parents on how you want them to behave, right? Not saying, "Oh, you love cars, go over and play with the cars," right? Encouraging the parent, helping them know that you're here to just be with the kid. Your job is to reflect what's happening. We really want the kid to play at their own pace and what their own desires are, because that's going to open our eyes to what's happening in this child's world. And that's really our goal, right? Not do they play, do they not play? It means they've been a good client, but they're us, the adults, allowing their world to be revealed is really important. You may shorten a session to 30 minutes with a really young one versus a 50-minute session. It's just a long time for them to be away from their parent. So you might consider that. You also probably are going to be a little faster to set limits, especially around safety. Think about a toddler, 18 months old, 20 months old, they're still putting a lot of stuff in their mouth. And so kind of looking around, what do I have that could be problematic to have in their mouth? Do I have any teeny tiny animals that they would swallow or, that kind of stuff. So you might jump on limit setting around safety, that kind of stuff. And then using shorter reflections. You're just going to use probably more vocal facial expression, oh, ooh, even more of that kind of responses, just because too many words. So your toys will stay mostly the same, but you might want to kind of do a quick scan of, do I have anything, what are my scissors really? Or what, just some of those kinds of things. But I would say those are kind of the biggies. The separating
Yeah.
is really important and preparing that parent for what that could look, knowing what play is typical of kids this age. It's all really important. Their play will still tell you a lot. I think that's one piece of feedback I often get. They're like, well, they don't have symbolic play yet. And I'm like, you can still tell a lot. You can still tell a lot of what's going on. This kid can still work through a lot of things. I think one other thing I would say is that if you've got a kid who's experienced a trauma at this young early age and parents are bringing them in, that as things improve and when you dismiss preparing parents, that it's very possible that at different developmental state times the child may to come back to therapy as they are revisiting, remaking sense of the experience that they had. And preparing parents, that's appropriate. That means he's right on track, that's a good thing, not that there's a failure, not that play therapy didn't work, that kind of stuff.
I think
Yeah.
that's so important. And I think too, sometimes I'll see in the different Facebook groups, if the kid doesn't want to come, and reminding that our therapeutic work starts in the waiting room when we're asked, we're inviting them into the room. And so that in itself can be very therapeutic, and that we're still using all of our skills.
Because separating from the parent is probably one of our treatment goals.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And so reminding the therapists out there that you're still maintaining your therapeutic presence and using all of these skills as you're working to get them to feel comfortable coming into that space with you.
Yep,
The other thing I was going to say is, when I think about having toddlers in the playroom, a lot of the materials, we've just done a big update here at my university to make sure that our playrooms are ability focused as well. And so we have a lot of adapted materials in our playroom that are really great for toddlers, right? Who have growing abilities. So, not traditional scissors with the 2 finger or the 3 fingers that you put in, but we have just the tweezer scissors where you can just kind of grasp. We have big chunky crayons that look like eggs. We have paintbrushes. We've got different things set around the space so that any child with any ability level, and if you have an ability focused playroom, toddlers are going to feel welcomed in your space.
Yep. I agree.
So just a plug from a multicultural perspective, right? That
Mhm.
it's not just making it toddler sensitive, it's making it ability sensitive for everyone. And if that's already part of your mentality, your playroom should be pretty well set up, maybe minus a few small little things. I was just thinking we have marbles in our playroom. I would take the magnetic marbles out, because those are a chokeable and toddlers are fast.
Yep, they are fast. They are on it. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I really like being here. I know Christy does
Yes.
too. It's always to see you, especially since we really focus our time together at APT. It's we're together, and it's nothing.
I know.
It's really nice. I'm glad that we were able to do this, and that were so willing to come and talk to us.
We were supposed to meet at APT and our worlds just got crazy. And Mary presented 2 days in a row. And then we were, you don't want to sit and do a podcast with us. And she's like,
No, it would have been fun to be
won't.
APT, but I had no more words left, turns out.
Yeah. I tried to do live from APT. I couldn't even make the microphone work. So, it is what it is. So
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Yes.
So everybody subscribe, listen, tell us what you're interested in, and we'll try and do it.
And if you have any questions or have a topic you want us to cover, remember you can email us at info@playtherapyspace.com.
Yep. All right.
Thanks, y'all. Have a great week.
Well, I think this was really helpful and informative. Thank you so much for coming and talking with us.
Thanks for having me.
Yes.
And Chrissy, were you going to say something?
No, I was just going to say it's been such a joy, and we often don't talk about this age group as play therapists. So I think it's a really important factor because we do get calls from toddler parents, and then it's almost, no, we just don't work with you, which is always breaks my heart because, every call is a parent saying they need support. And where do we help send them for support if the kid therapists aren't the ones that are willing to support them?
Right?
Yeah.
It's a really confusing thing.
Yeah.
So, So everybody, thank you so much for having Dr. Mary Morrison Bennett get the CPRT book where she has the chapter on toddlers and the manual. And then also
And can I say a plug about the manual? The manual now comes a companion website, which is where you would find Mary's adapted toddler model. And so there's not a separate, or if you just look at the traditional, it's not going to say the adaptations. You actually have to download the toddler model portion.
And the directions on that are in the front of the book. It's really
Yep.
poorly done. So you have to work really hard to look. So just know it's there. It's in the
Yeah.
first couple of pages. Look hard.
And and now I just go to Routledge and I go to the book and then I go to resources and then it tells me to sign in. And if it's your first time signing in, it'll tell you what to do. Just so people know, as someone who does CPRT and teaches on CPRT, I go that route instead of trying to follow the directions at the beginning of the CPRT book.
Okay. And I just download it. If you download everything, then you never have to go there again.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then also go out and get the guide to play therapy documentation and parent consultation. And then don't forget to either go to our website, sign up for emails, our socials, playtherapyspace.com. And we will see you again in another week.
Have a great week, everyone.